All right, good morning, everybody. We'll just make sure I stay back here. That's a really loud mic and I'm a really loud girl. So between those things, this could be a really interesting wake-up call, right? Good morning. Welcome to the first annual Midwest edTPA Regional Conference. We are so excited to have you here. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Lisa Palmer. I'm the edTPA coordinator at Illinois State University. So you've seen my name on a lot of stuff. Before we get started, so this has been the first time we've kind of opened up to other states. So if you're from another state other than Illinois, could you just raise your hand? I won't make you stand up. But thank you so much for traveling to be with us. We have 6 states, I believe, represented here today, so we're so excited. We thought, why let the Southeast and the Mid-Atlantic have all the fun? So we're so excited you're here. We have a jam-packed schedule, so my opening remarks are going to be very brief. Those of you who know me and who are from Illinois State are already laughing in your heads, but I promise they will be brief. And we're going to get started with things. Going through. My computer's doing stuff up here, so we'll just let it go at that. How does that sound? And apparently my internet connection is unstable. Little does the internet know what else is unstable right now. A few people we have to thank for today, and I've acknowledged many of them in the program today, but I have to tell you that an event like this, we've actually been planning this for almost a year. And so my committee has been hard at work. I have to tell you, one of the unsung heroes of this conference is my co-chair, Jan Fitzsimmons, who is standing in the back. I'm going to take care of the logistics, but she keeps us moving forward. So she's always the one saying, when is our next conference call? What's the next thing we need to do? And those of you who have been involved in event planning know how important having that person is. And my committee is amazing. If you're on the committee, if you could just raise your hand, the planning committee here, they've been wonderful in looking at everything. So, yeah. Just a few logistical things before we get started because we have a jam-packed schedule. We tried to get as much out of this day as we possibly can. There is, if you take a look, after our main session, we've got 4 breakout sessions throughout the day. There are 5 options for you at every breakout session. So to choose from. In addition to that, lunch, we didn't plan for a full sit-down lunch. You've got 20 minutes to grab your lunch, chat with people, and get to the next session, right? So we kind of let the learning take over the lunch for today. So just know that every room, so for my presenters, every room will have a room host that is signed up to help facilitate things. If you're having a problem with the technology or anything in your room, let the room host know. They will let me know, and we will take care of it from there. By the way, and so you can just see through the program people to thank. My staff at ISU is amazing. They handle all the registration. My assistant, Suze Connor, keeps me calm. I've been doing a lot of mumbling this week around the office, apparently, and so she's the one who keeps everything going and keeps me stable, even if my internet connection isn't at times, apparently. And the lady in red back there has been my savior this morning. That's Ashley, and she's been handling all the technology setup as well. So with all of that, if you run into any issues throughout the day, I'll be running around there, room host. We'll make sure you're in good hands, all right? And for my Chicago folks, we still had free parking, so we've got that going for us, right? All right, so without further ado, Andrea Whitaker is going to be joining us from Scale to say a few words, and then we're going to get into our keynote. How does that sound? Awesome. All right. See, I told you all it would be short. Andrea?
Can you hear me, Elisa?
We can hear you. Do I need to share screen with you, or you share screen with me?
I can try my video.
Try your video.
See if I hear. But
Can you all hear
connection's
okay?
been really, I heard very few of your remarks. Can you see me?
Not yet, or not yet. We're having a few internet connections here, issues. Let me try. Sorry, folks. Oh, We got you.
There you go.
We have you. Speak away.
Great. Yeah, the connection has been really unstable. I could hardly hear anything that you were saying, Elisa. You kept stopping and staying and dropping off. So I'll just keep this very brief. First, I just I very much appreciate the work of the Illinois and Midwest Planning Committee. They were tremendous in getting this first annual regional conference off the ground. We now, for edTPA, have 3 regional conferences and a national conference annually, which is very exciting, and it speaks to the commitment to the learning community for edTPA. So thank you to all of you. I did prepare a letter with some comments for all of you and a few announcements. And I wanted to just read a short excerpt. Lisa, can you still hear me okay?
We can hear you. It's flickering here, but we can hear you. Just your voice and your video are a little off, but that's okay.
Okay, I'm going to stop the video because that will improve the bandwidth a little bit, and I'm going to share my screen.
Perfect.
And just read one short section from the letter, because I think it's very very important for my own representation of my own thinking. But before
I'm sorry, folks. All right, well, I don't know if we're going to be able to get her back. I'm going to text her. Okay, so we're just going to make lemonade today and just say, well, we have more time for our keynote now, right? They were worried about running out of time anyways. I texted Andrea to say we're going to move on with the program. She wrote a wonderful letter. You have it in writing. What a great instructional support and backup plan, right? You know, I always tell my folks, I know everything doesn't relate to edTPA, but it's so nice when I can just work in those little things, right? So anyways, I'm going to let our keynote speakers introduce themselves. We are so fortunate to have them here today. I've been so blessed to get to know them and over the past few years, and so I think you're going to find their presentation wonderful. So without further ado, the ladies from Georgia.
Good morning. Let's see if this works. How's everybody today? Awesome. Well, my name is Fenton, and we are looking for a great day of learning. I'm going to apologize in advance to a videographer because this is about sharing today. This is about learning. Yes, this is a participatory, interactive session. Raise your hand if you are absolutely thrilled about that this morning. I see all hands are up, right? Okay, this is a learning team that we have here now today. Okay, our theme today, I need a volunteer and a big loud educator voice to read what in the world we're going to be talking about today. And when I call on you, when I invite you to speak, I want you to state your name and where you're from. From where are you? Yes, ma'am?
I better stay back.
Let's try it again. Oh, we don't want to be stuck behind the podium, right? Can you cut that one off,
I can
please?
turn that one on.
Let's try that. We're educators, we can be flexible, right? Yes. Let's try it again. My apologies for the sound. Let's try this again. Awesome. Okay, state your name and where you're from. Let's do that throughout this session because guess what? You'll learn at least 15 new folks today. And we'll try it and we'll stay away. Okay, volunteers. Again, I see all hands up. Remember, we agreed, whether you really did or not, to be interactive today. So I need a volunteer and a big loud educator voice. Read our theme today, our topic, our session. I'm going to ask this table. Getting volunteers. State your name, where you're from. Don't you love it? Jane, will you help me out?
Sure. Jane Lundeen, St. Xavier University.
Wait, let's stop and give Jane a big round of sound.
leveraging the educative value of edTPA to bridge preparation and practice through partnership.
Ooh, that's a lot of words. What kind of value are we working on today? It's up there. Starts with an E. Educative value. Okay, so why is that so important? Because we can do a lot of things, right, in education, but if we don't keep the focus on that educative value, then we're really just not maximizing its potential. So today we're going to be looking at all the great work you're doing in preparation, and we're going to be thinking about, that we need to keep the focus on the educative value, but we're going to weave over and think about so what for practice. All right, and we're going to do that through forging great partnerships. If you will agree to stay till 7 o'clock tonight, we can do a bang-up job with this topic. Any problem? No? Okay. How many EPPs do we have in the house? Raise your hand. Educator preparation providers. All hands up, please, if you're an EPP. Okay, hands down. How many of you are P12 school district folks? Can we give them a big round of sound for being here today? Thank you. How many state folks do we have today? How many educational organizations? Yay, thank you. And how many others? How many are others? All right. And again, how many are you glad to be here? Yes, all hands are up. Excellent. Okay. So this first segment is about making it count. And I've entitled this first segment, So What? About 15, 20 years ago, when we were all 9 years old, there was a big paradigm shift, in my opinion, in education. Not just in my opinion, but it happened. It's this thing called demonstrating, being held accountable for impact on student learning and preparation. Where you may remember preparing for NCATE Standard 3 back then, and it was a huge shift of saying, okay, we've got to show impact on student learning. And that left many preparation providers grappling. And that wasn't that long ago when you think about it, in years, but look how far we've come. And look how edTPA helps inform that work. Back then, I hosted I was with Kennesaw State University. It was the second largest producer of teachers in Georgia at the time, and with the Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning, hosted an Impact on Student Learning conference. We invited Rick Stiggins. Rick is a famous quote for what? Excellent. We invited Mary Dietz from Alverno, somebody new, who really did a lot of emerging and thoughtful work in making that bridge to impact on student learning. We also invited Emerson Elliott, formerly with NCATE, who's now with, Emerson, he's now with CATE. And you may say, well, what does that matter? Well, it showed that there was a big shift and focus on this, trying to get a handle on this thing called impact on student learning. But there was one more speaker I want to mention, that was Kay Shallingcamp. She was the president of Black Hills State University in, anybody know? South Dakota. And so I invited her as a president to talk about what do presidents want to know about preparation providers. What do they want to hear about the preparation programs from colleges of education? And out of the great advice she gave, one was that you must have an elevator speech. She suggested, she invited folks to have an elevator speech ready to go. And that is not to promote not about self-promotion. It's about sharing the work. I'm not talking about just with your college president or university president. I'm talking about with those with whom you come in contact on a daily, weekly, at these meetings, being ready and willing and inviting to share the good work that you're doing. And educators, we are so, in education, tell me if you disagree, we are so great about the planning, the implementation, the assessment, and then where are we then? And reflection, and then we are off to the next thing. We always don't take the time to really tell the story, to communicate our good work, and even to celebrate our good work. And that's where I think we can really focus. So we're going to practice today and really getting something very succinct. It's about a 30 to 60 second introduction. So this is going to be an interactive piece. Can you wait, and are you very excited? Yes? Okay, good. We're going to model. We're going to do a little role playing. Would y'all like to see us model this elevator speech? I'll be the one to blow it, but I'm going to invite my co-presenters up. Hi, I'd like to meet you. I'm Anne-Marie Fenton. I direct the Educator Assessment Program for the Georgia Professional Standards Commission. One thing we are so excited about now, and one thing we're really working on, is teacher leadership. We are trying to think in our state about how to maximize the role of teacher leaders in our buildings, and we have an interagency task force going on to really think with our educator preparation providers, our partners, our state, as to how to really get them to use them to invite into, this is hard, isn't it? To provide individual, and see, it's okay, to provide individualized support for induction. We have a professional learning community going just for Georgia teacher leaders, and we have a performance-based assessment for teacher leaders. So that's really something cool we're working on. I'd like to hear about you.
Hello, I'm LaToya Dobie Holmes. I'm the Director for Professional Learning in the Richmond County School System. We're really excited about building and supporting our teachers and our leaders. We have a new pipeline for teacher and leader in our districts to support our induction teachers and our induction principals. We're excited about having them collaborate and engage in meaningful professional learning through professional learning communities.
It's good to meet you, LaToya. I'm Judy Wilson, and I'm the Associate Dean of the College of Education at Augusta University, and we are really excited about an initiative surrounding growing our own teachers. So we have a Future Georgia Educators Day. We invite the high school students to our campus. We also invite them to our campus for an Impacting Student Learning conference that I'll tell you about in a minute. And we're also hosting a Future Georgia Educators Signing Day on Tuesday, so we're excited about that.
Okay, can we give these two ladies a big round of thanks? Now, okay, you say, now what do I have to do? Guess what you're going to be doing? There's value in this. This has a purpose, okay? So, here's what we're going to do. With your learning partner, who's your learning partner? It is not your elbow partner. That's the person right next to you. And that's your comfort zone. So I'm going to need your help here. I'm going to need your help. We're going to capture it on video to see how well you respond to directions. When I raise my hand, and when you hear my voice, could you please bring it back to large group, meaning stay where you are, but bring it back to large group as quickly as possible in your dialogue. So again, the prompt is you see my hand raised, and then you hear my voice. And then just, if you will, finish your conversation very quickly and bring it back to large group. So this is what I'm going to invite you to do. I'm going to, for those of you who can, stand. Not yet. I want to ask you to go and meet someone you do not know. All right. Now, if you don't like the person, you can go and meet somebody else. That's okay. But I'm going to invite you to go meet someone you don't know. And then I'm going to ask you to share your name, your name, what you do, your organization very succinctly. Because how long do we have to do this? About 30 to 60 seconds for you. And then I'm going to ask you to share one or two specific initiatives, projects, or goals on which you are working. It could be something you're working on. It could be collective work. It could be a great lesson you taught last week, something you really want to get some grant funding for. Okay, excuse me, for what you want to get grant funding. I'm a former English teacher, don't end in prepositions. Okay, so this is what I'm going to ask you to do. And again, we're going to do this very quickly, but it does two things. Number one, you get to know someone. Because this is a learning, as we said, a learning team, and you do not want to leave this place without having made connections with others who can help you. I had a wonderful breakfast conversation. Where's my breakfast partner? Yes, Nancy. And we talked about alternative preparation. Over breakfast it was great. So see, we'll stay connected there. Okay, so what are we going to do? I'm going to ask you, when you get up, for those of you who can stand, get up, go move somewhere else. Stand, keep standing and talk. When I raise my hand, then each of you should have had time to share each of your elevator speech stories. Then I want you to stay in place. All right? How does that sound? Are you so excited? Yes, you are. Okay, let's get ready, get set, move. let's come back to the group in 3, and 2, and 1. If you can hear me, clap once. If you can hear me, clap twice. If you can hear me, clap 3 times. Okay, I want a little bit of feedback. We need a little better responsiveness to the prompt to stop talking, okay? So next time, just help me out here. Okay, now, you say, why am I still standing? Okay. I want you to do a little role play. One of you is going to be a professional learning coordinator, and one of you is going to be an EPP faculty member. It does not matter what your role is, because these are sort of kind of opinion questions about what could be. So you're going to have to decide with your partner or partners who's the professional learning coordinator and who's going to be the faculty. You're each going to ask a question. So the first question is, so what are 2 strengths and 2 areas for growth that you're seeing in your completers as they move from preparation to employment? So I'm an employee, I've got folks coming in my building, I've got a job, I'm a professional learning coordinator. I want to know what their strengths and areas for growth are. Okay, so when I raise my hand, what are you going to do? Bring it back up here. So ask that, talk with your partner, if you will, from that perspective. And you say, well, I have no idea. Well, think about what you know about where people are when they leave preparation generally. Thank you. Go ahead and start. Okay, if you can hear my voice, clap once, twice, 3 times. Okay, I have another little question to ask you. The same roles, don't switch. Here's the question, are you ready?
Yes.
Are you ready? Yes, okay. That is, so how do you know? Just talk about it for a minute. We'll give you 30 seconds. Go. All right, let's come back in 5, in 4, in 3. Whoa. I applaud you. Yay, wonderful. Okay, now we're going to switch roles. How did that feel, by the way? Felt good, didn't it? Thinking and reflecting? Okay. All right, now you're going to switch. The faculty member is going to ask the professional learning coordinator. So what induction support are you going to provide for our completers you have just hired? Could you please take a few minutes and ask that question and hear the response? If you don't know, think about what could Outstanding. Okay, there's a sub-question to this one. This will be our final, and then I'm going to ask you to have a seat. All right, but give this one some thought. So how do you know what they need? Faculty members ask them professional learning quarter, so how do you know what they need? Share for 30 seconds. Okay, so we might have a volunteer. This gentleman right here looks like he would be willing to volunteer, yes? Either of you. And I want you to please state your name, where you're from, and just something you and your group talked about very quickly and succinctly, please.
My name is Sean Kelly, and I'm from North Central College. And we talked about the bridge, the connection from the college and university into the professional environment, and the bridges and the responsibilities of the college that continues even after the person graduates.
John Hayward from, you want to add?
Yes, my new friend Deb and I discuss how to support teachers that are getting into their classrooms for the very first time. And we discussed how valuable observation is, notes observation, and providing a forum for these teachers to voice in a non-threatening but supportive way what's going on and how we can help them.
That's a great tone for John and Sean, right? Sean? Okay, beautiful setup for this segment. This is what I want you to be thinking about. This is your lunch, your 20-minute lunch topic, your working lunch topic. So what can we do together? We're going to be exploring some of that in our remaining time together. So what can we do together? Sean, you mentioned bridges. I'm going to hold on that for just a moment. Okay, this is what I hope you took away from some of these activities. And I'm just going to tell you what you took away, right? Normally I would ask you, but this is some things that I hope you took away from you for this for the very first segment of So What that we had together. First of all, it's important to share about the work. About telling people what you're working on, what you and your colleagues are working on, something you're trying to accomplish. Having that ready is not about self-promotion, it's promoting the profession of education. It also helps promote your needs, and what you're doing also helps celebrate and communicate. Keep the focus of the so what in mind. Who's our ultimate client in education? The student, the P12 student. So what does this mean for that P12 student, every P12 student, each P12 student in the classroom? Foster conversations with your partners about successes and needs. I believe, we just had a great comment about that. It's really thinking, really to your comment, we were thinking about, John, when we were thinking about, just having that conversation that you were mentioning. And then seek ways to work together, keep the focus on doing what is best for students. Okay, edTPA is a lever to forge meaningful partnerships in our next segment. All right, so here, Sean mentioned the word bridge. Why in the world would I put a picture of the Sidney Lanier Bridge in Georgia? Not to make you jealous, because I know you just had, in April? Like tons of snow, right? But you have beautiful, spring has arrived here in Illinois. It's gorgeous here. But I built that bridge. Why would we need to think about a bridge when we think about education? Need a volunteer and a big loud educator voice. Well, Sean's already told us, right? That we have to look at bridging pre-service preparation and in-service practice. So we have pre-service preparation on one side and service practice on the other. And what comes in the middle of that? What could come in the middle of that? Starts with a P. This is a little inquiry, and it would be partnerships. So really, when we think about this work, we've got to keep those partnerships in mind, and you know that. So I'm just going to give you a few strategies that we've seen. And by the way, if we use Georgia examples, it's not holding Georgia up as a model, it's an example. Because guess what, folks? We are all in the same business, are we not? And we're all working and learning together. And so one thing is that you can do is really get your partners involved in determining the alignment between edTPA and your teacher evaluation instrument. How many of you have done that with your partners? You pulled your partners in to go through that process. And if you've already done that, it would be great to go ahead and revisit that because we've learned more and we have a deeper understanding as we go through the year. So just because it's done and checked off the list, you can revisit that. If you have not pulled your partners to the table, whether it's in a school, between the EPP and your partner school, and say, hey, let's look at these two things. How are your teachers evaluated in your building? Is it a state instrument? Is it a local instrument? Whatever it is, see the connections. Guess what? That helps candidates also see, and your partner districts see, listen more closely in thinking about the benefits for them. How many of you listen to WIFM as a radio station? How many of you listen to radio still? Okay. WIFM. Gosh, it's so wonderful. Everybody listens to it. And some people listen to it more closely than others and louder than others. WIFM means, what's in it for me? Right? So we all kind of have that filter of what's in it for me. So your employee districts need to see the connection about, okay, edTPA is great. They've passed it. I can hire them. So does it need to stop there? No. They can think about, okay, well, how can this possibly help us in our work? Seeing the alignment between how you're preparing them, and I'm speaking to program providers here, and to our partners, then what can you do to help support that? Having your candidates examine the goals, mission, and priorities of the school. How many of you do that, of the school in which they're doing their field placement? Okay, it's a lost opportunity if the candidates don't, even if they display individual initiative on their own, go and find out. But it's not just what's on the website about their vision statement and their mission priorities. It's really about their prioritized needs. What's in their ESSA plan? What's important to this school? And then they can think about, okay, how can I help meet those needs? If you don't know what the needs are, it's very hard to meet them, right? Another one is teacher candidate evaluation system. Several EPPs in Georgia got together and said, we want to think about all the data and experiences that we do in pre-service preparation. And we want to see, can we create something that aligns with how teachers are evaluated in our state, even beyond it, inclusive of edTPA. So when you think about how does edTPA fit in all the other stuff, edTPA is a tool, as you know, but it's a way to bridge. And Judy Wilson is a great resource on that. It's called, the informal word is to intern keys. They've now changed it to the Candidate Assessment Performance System, I believe. But if you're interested to see how many of our EPPs chose, not were told, but chose to evaluate a system to collect candidate data, to think about practice in field experiences, and usually in student teaching, using edTPA to inform that work. It's like more of a summative assessment of everything, and then connecting it to in-service practice. I hope that resonates with you. That's just something to think about. Again, not a recommendation, just maybe a process that you and your partners may want to go through there together so that they can also see what you're doing. We have P20 collaboratives. We divided the state up into different regions, and EPPs and P12 meet twice a year where they come together, and these are taking off. And again, these are examples. You may have those kinds of structures. So imagine some of you have regional areas in your state already. If you pulled your partners, P12 partners and EPP partners and state folks together for meaningful dialogue and conversation. We have virtual learning communities. How many of you join in a virtual conversation as you go throughout the day? I mean, not the day, but in your work. Okay, consider inviting, if you do that, if you don't do it, consider doing that. It doesn't cost a dime other than time. And if you could bring your partners and invite them to the table to do the learning with you and the dialogue and discussion about deeper dialogue and discussion about meaningful practice. And we just ended that, didn't mean to. Individualized professional learning plans. Every new teacher in our state must have an individualized professional learning plan. Is that not like amazing? But guess what? If it's just a plan and nothing happens, we have an induction certificate. Now, I'm saying this again. I'm only using this as an example. Just because you may not have it state policy that you have to have an individualized learning plan or individualized professional growth plan, can your candidates leave with one? How many of your candidates do some type of professional learning plan, using the scale model or another model, before they leave your buildings? How many of you would like to see your candidates do one before they leave your buildings? Okay, good. These are some things to maybe take away, consider, think about. There's all kinds of examples. Shout out to Andrea Whitaker with Scale. As you know, she's a wealth of information and resources. A lot of this is on the edTPA website. Also, shout out, by the way, to Jerry Bush back there with the Evaluation Systems Group of Pearson, who is a great partner of yours and ours in our state. And of course, differentiated induction. Now, I've done a lot of talking here, but I'm going to turn it over to this group. This is the P20 collaboratives I was sharing with you, and I want to show you where in the state these two ladies, from where they come. Richmond County is down here, right? Aren't you down here in this area? Yeah. And so I want to introduce to you, because I want you to hear from them. I think it's really cool to pull in an EPP and a P12 partner with a state agency person presentation. I hope that you see the importance of that it's not, that none of us are working in isolation. None of us here, education, none of us should be working in silos. You know, we all should be going down the road together. And I wanted to model that for you by inviting these two outstanding individuals, Judy H. Wilson and Latoya Dolby Holmes, who are going to share some great information with you about effective, what do you think? Partnerships. Awesome. Great.
Thank you, Anne Marie. Yeah, that'd be great. Great. So I apologize ahead of time. I have a little bit of a southern accent. Elisa teases me and she says that I'm the only person she knows that can say hey and make it sound like a 4-syllable word. So I apologize ahead of time if I use the word y'all, because that's just the way we do things in Georgia. So I just want to talk to you a little bit about what we have done. Again, just as Anne Marie said, it's not a model. This is just working for us, and so we're here to share it with you so that maybe you can just take a piece of it or maybe adapt it or maybe make some changes or some tweaks to where it might work for you as well. Or maybe as we're talking, it might stimulate an idea in you that you think, well, we can't do that, or we don't need to do that, but maybe we could do this and use this in a different way. So I'm going to talk about how it works in higher ed, and we call that an EPP, or an Educator Preparation Program. I realized as I was interacting with my group that we're using some acronyms that you may or may not be comfortable with. So an EPP can either be a higher ed entity, or it could be another alternative certification program. For us, it might even be a school district that has gotten accreditation to be able to offer that accreditation program. So that's what that means. So we do create an individualized, personalized learning plan, and our candidates create this at the culmination of their experience. So this is a capstone project at the very end of student teaching. They work towards this their entire career, and they actually do a couple of small ones along the way so that we can kind of look at milestones and growth points and opportunities to really leverage strengths and also to capitalize on weaknesses. So what our candidates do, and they begin doing this alone, and then they do it in consultation with their mentor teacher and their university supervisor. So they do have some courageous conversations with them to make sure that they're on track and on target in terms of assessing themselves well. But they use all of the data points that they have generated throughout the program, but in particular during student teaching. So that might include teaching observations that have been done on them. It might be a self-assessment. It might be their content assessment, and edTPA is certainly a piece of that as well. I want you to notice that when I identified the data sources, I did not put them in order. edTPA, in my opinion, is no more important than those other data points. And so that is one data point that we use to inform our induction plan. And that's how we're bridging pre-service to in-service. In the past, and I've been at the university for almost 16 years, but in the past what we have done is we create great pre-service teachers. And then we watch them graduate. They walk across the stage and they go to a P12 school, and we lose contact with them. And in many ways, we were not held accountable for the results of what happened when they got into those classrooms. So as difficult as the new standards are to navigate in terms of CAPE and accreditation, to me, it has been a very logical and worthy thing for us to wrestle with, to figure out how to follow our candidates and how to continue providing support. They do have to provide strengths and areas of concern, and they have to be specific. So it can't just be, I struggle with classroom management, but it needs to be very specific in terms of, is it pacing? Is it, transitions? What is it? And they have to identify specific action plans. The action plans can't be generic, so if I'm struggling with transitions, I can't just say I'm going to read a book and go to a conference. I have to find the book, I have to explain the rationale behind choosing that book, and then I have to literally come up with an action plan as to how that is going to improve my practice. That would be one strategy. That's not enough, and that's something that we talk about a lot in our program. So they create this, and in there, I've talked about this a little bit, it's job embedded, it's personalized, it's individualized. It focuses on their individual needs based on the data that they have. It is action-oriented, so it is what I call laser-focused on results. It's very much focused on student learning, so outcomes, less focused on the teacher, more focused on the impact it's having on K-12 student learning, or in our Georgia, we call it P-12, preschool through 12th grade. It is created collaboratively, so that the candidate will actually show this to their mentor teacher, show it to their university supervisor, and they'll negotiate. They'll talk about, am I on target? Are there additional resources that maybe I need to include in my action plan? Are there some things that I could take advantage of that are already in existence? Is there a mentor that maybe I could meet with periodically throughout the summer? And the beautiful thing to me is that this creates talking points in their interviews. Our principals are so impressed when our candidates meet with them and they're able to specifically identify strengths and areas of concern, and they link them back very naturally to the data. So they are reflective practitioners. They are constantly examining their practice to look at what they're doing well and how they might improve. And that is really just a part of our mission, it's a part of our DNA, it's a part of our culture. We are all about, how can we do things better, but also celebrating what we're doing well at the same time. So the next thing that sort of emerged from all of this work is that I was working with our induction districts, so our local school districts. I was working with them in induction. And separately, I was working with our pre-service teachers. So all of this sort of evolved through a different kind of timeline. But one of the things that I realized is that our induction districts were all doing similar work. And there might be a way that we could work smarter rather than harder. We had rural districts that were, what I call double, triple, quadruple hatting, so wearing lots of hats. And maybe they didn't have the resources that other districts had. And so it just felt like we were reinventing the wheel. And I thought, well, is there a way for us to all come together and synergize our efforts, share resources, share insights, share ideas, maybe put something on the table that we're struggling with and have others input into how we might solve that problem. So we created a safe space, and I wasn't sure if anybody was going to come or if I was going to be the only one. But I am all about being very inclusive and not exclusive and inviting everyone. I love that saying that if you're not at the table, you might be on the menu. So these are all the people that we invited. So you see 5 school districts. We've got 3 rural, we've got an urban, we've got a suburban. We've got 3 universities, which I think is unique. We are the hub. Augusta University is the one that sponsors all of this, but I reached out to our 2 private universities that are in town. One is a historically black college, private, and the other is sort of an alternative campus. And we invited them to the table as well. You see that we also have our state partners. The conversations we have had have been powerful. It has led to us creating a mentor training that will happen this summer collaboratively with all of these districts, anyone who wants to be involved. It's led to sharing handbooks, so again, that people don't have to reinvent the wheel, and sharing lots of resources. Our bookend support that we provide for induction, and again, edTPA is informing all of this because it's the data set that they create this professional learning plan that they use during their first year of teaching. From that, Our candidates come to an Impacting Student Learning Conference every spring. This is a free conference. We started with 50 people, we're up to almost 800. We do a keynote in the morning, 2 concurrent sessions in the morning, 2 in the afternoon with lunch provided. Their day is color-coded to where it is aligned to exactly what their instructional needs are. So this is a way for them to very, in a personalized way, address their gaps, areas of concern. This is not a day for me to hang out with LaToya and us to have a lot of fun or go hear a fun speaker, but it really is a personalized day of learning to support my needs as a beginning teacher. This has been an incredible support system. We call it kind of our bookend support because induction begins in the districts with their orientation, and this is something that we provide for free in the spring to sort of continue that scaffolding and support. The districts actually help us create the call for proposals, and that's based on data. So what are the teacher evaluation tools showing us in terms of what the needs are? And that's how we make our decisions about which conference proposals are accepted. So they help us make those decisions. I invite you to come to our conference. We haven't scheduled it yet, but it will be in February or March in Augusta. You had snow in April and it was 80 degrees and lots of flowers and pollen in Augusta. So we would love for any of you to come and be a part of our Impacting Student Learning Conference. And I'll be around throughout the day to answer individual questions if you have any.
Good morning. Now with the P12 connection, I kind of made Julie nervous after the conference because I said, well, my teachers want one before school starts. And she's like, really, LaToya, we're not going to do 2. But the Impacting Student is an awesome conference. So when our teachers come, when they're finished at the EPPs and they come to us, an important part is that we show them the connection that nothing they did in the university was in isolation, that their edTPA is actually connected in Georgia to the TEKS evaluation system, the Teacher Keys evaluation system. So we first and foremost start in the beginning with making that connection so they see that it's a seamless process for them. And what we also do is when our teachers come in to Richmond County School System, we ask them for the edTPA data so that we can see what their strengths and what their challenges are. So when we start, the first thing that we ensure is that, like in the college, they create a professional learning plan. And with their plan, we want to ensure that they have support in the very beginning. So all of our new teachers, our induction teachers, are placed in an induction academy. And within that induction academy, they are placed with a SMART mentor and an induction support team within their school. The induction support team includes their principal, their SMART mentor, and another teacher on their grade level or content area. Within that, they start to work on their professional learning plan. We ask them to look at the work that they did when they were a pre-service teacher, and then we ask them to start creating SMART goals, things that they can really work on and accomplish, things that we know are specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and have time-bound time measurements within them. We want to make sure that it's individualized, that with schools, we know that if reading is an issue and you want everybody to focus on that reading goal, well, yes, we want to make sure that their goals are aligned to the school needs, but we also want you to go a little deeper and make sure they're personalized so that you can get what you need. And then we look at the data. Because you're induction, we want to look at what you did as a pre-service teacher so we can drive your professional learning. And we show you, we keep it focused on the student learning. What do the students need? What do you need to impact those students in your classroom? Of course, there's a lot of collaboration. You collaborate with your induction support team, and you also collaborate as an induction teacher. We bring the induction teachers in for a 5-day orientation at the district. After the 4.5 days, because the half day they go back to their school on that 5th day and have a school orientation. But also throughout that first year, you come to an induction support professional learning once a month within the district. And at the beginning, you complete a self-assessment. So in that self-assessment with our TEAC standards, you evaluate where you are with each standard, and that guides your professional learning. So we sent out a survey to the teachers at the beginning of the year, asking them what professional learning needs they would like for. We start in August, September, so each month they give a survey. I also pull their Teacher Keys evaluation data for self-assessments, and if they've had any walkthroughs that month, so that the data is translated and we have specifically professional learning based on their needs. We review the teachers' plans within the platform every month. So once a month, there's a follow-up meeting with your induction support team to see where you are in progress of your professional learning plan. We engage in that continuous improvement work. We allow teachers to be developers of their professional learning and guide what they will partake in, and we ensure that it's job embedded throughout the day. Within our district, we have incorporated 4 district-wide professional learning days into our calendar, with every one Wednesday in the month is an early release day for them to collaborate with their grade level. In Richmond County, well, in the state of Georgia, this is what the professional learning plan looks like. You have where the teacher, and it kind of, if you can remember the one from AU, it's the same format basically. So the teachers are familiar with it, they know that they have to identify strategies to help them meet their needs, documentation of the evidence, their timeline, so that's that same SMART goal format. And what teachers do is they first complete they do an orientation, their self-assessment, and then they work with their induction team to complete this professional learning plan. And it's housed in our electronic platform, and teachers have access to it and their evaluators. And progress on it is reviewed monthly. To ensure again that we are providing what the teachers need, I have access to pull a data report to see where teachers are, what they need, and to guide our professional learning. Here you can see it's just a summary of a professional learning plan with identified needs based on the standards. And I pull this monthly to determine what professional learning the induction teachers need. We also bring induction teachers in what we call T-Talks, where they come in and it's a time for them to just have a collaboration with our curriculum director and our special ed director and our Title I director to address any specific needs that they may have. Within our professional learning communities, we think that it is instrumental to just make sure that we have a variety of professional learning opportunities for our teachers. So we meet as an induction academy, that's one PLC. They also can meet as their content, and then we also meet as grade level. So they have opportunities to collaborate and share ideas with a variety of other teachers that are experts and that are veterans.
All right, we're going to stop. Can you go back to your previous slide? Let's stop and take a few questions. This is too rich of an opportunity when you have an EPP, Educator Preparation Provider, and a P12 partner together for you to ask questions. You heard some specific examples of things they're doing, and you may want to share some things you're doing related to partnerships with that. So I'm going to ask you, who would like to ask a question or make a comment? And I see all hands are up again. Good. While you think about it, I need to pause. Need to get better at pausing. Let's go back here. Thank you. Hang on just a moment. And if you will, state your name and where you're from. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Greg Montano from Western Illinois University. So one of the concerns I have about these types of partnerships has to do with serving rural school districts. It sounds like that you are based in Augusta, and there's probably quite a few teachers that you provide to this school district. In in our state in particular, we have institutions who service populations that are spread out considerably over as many as 10 or 20 counties. And it seems like having this kind of partnership might be a little bit more challenging.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you for that fabulous question. Thank you. I'm going to ask our panelists to respond, and then I'll weigh in. Some of you may have some ideas, and you may have some solutions that you have determined. Latoya?
In Augusta, Richmond County is one of the largest school districts, but we do collaborate with McDuffie, Jefferson, which are rural districts, and you're right, they do have that challenge. And what we do as that P20 collaborative is just really work together. With Jefferson County, which is a smaller rural area, our conversation came out about supporting our teachers and our mentors more. So we get together and plan with those key people. Matter of fact, Jefferson and Richmond collaborated to do the Mentor Academy. So what we do is, like, for new teachers, I may have 300 new teachers, Jefferson may only have 2. But we still share ideas, work together, and collaborate, because those teachers' needs are primarily just the same. And whereas Richmond may provide more funding and support of the other. So we don't work in isolation. We support all of the districts, no matter which size.
Yeah, that was well said. Geographic barriers are always difficult and challenging, and so I think we have to think outside the box and inside the budget. And we've tried to do that as much as we possibly can. So looking at what we're already doing and how we might create more synergy. I will tell you that we do work with 12 districts, and the majority of them are rural. So we do have kind of a large geographic area. There are some districts that have chosen not to be a part of this induction collaborative at this point, but they do participate in the P20 collaborative. So it's an option, it's a choice, it's an opportunity. We're inviting them to the table. We love for them to come, but it's not a mandate. We are there to support and encourage and provide anything that we can to help our graduates. And one of the reasons that I'm so passionate about this is because, research tells us that nationally about 60% of our candidates are going to be employed within about a 20-mile radius of where they went to high school. And our statistics are actually higher than that. Our students go right back to where they taught. We don't have a lot of influx. Our demographics are starting to shift now that we're a Research 1, but our primary area of service is our local area. So there is no better investment than that we can make as a university, and I have taken that stand since I've been at the university, even before I moved into academic leadership. It is an investment in the future, not only of our college and the reputation and the integrity that stands for that, but it's also a huge investment in our community. And those are my kids and my grandkids that are being served in those schools. So I'm incredibly passionate about making sure that we get the most qualified teacher in every classroom, and whatever we can do to facilitate that, we're going to do.
Thank you. Does anybody have something you've done in that specific area? And we only have about 2 minutes to share on that. Something you've done. My breakfast partner, Nancy, you have mentioned so you're going to wish you never came to breakfast this morning. You mentioned is it your CCA? CISA, your regional. Can you speak a little bit about your regional support that you?
So in the state of Wisconsin, we have what's called CISAs. I'm Nancy Yeager, and I'm from Oshkosh, Wisconsin, and I work at CISA 6. So you have your regional support networks, and the state is divided up in Wisconsin into 12 CISAs. I believe in Illinois, yours are, they're regional networks. What are they called in Illinois? RISAs in Georgia, but every state has them. But creating those partnerships and including your regional areas is very important too, because we're the ones that take the information from the Department of Public Instruction and bring that back to the school districts. So we're kind of the middle people in being able to have that conversations and everything. So we find that that's very valuable in trying to, because we're in the school districts, knowing what administrators and teachers are needing. We're also dealing with teachers and training programs, and so it's a real nice combination.
Another, something to consider though, is a lot can be done virtually, and even intra-building, intra-system, in providing those structures of support. And you think about the professional learning dollars that schools get, even from ESSA plans, it's their choice and based on their needs as to how they choose to use those, but even inviting an EPP partner, paying the travel, if that's part of their prioritized needs and what they can do, to bring folks in. And so really thinking, as I think Judy said, outside the box, or LaToya outside the box, both of you think that way. Just looking for structures of support that can help. We understand, and I know we all know and embrace, that underserved areas can be very challenging. And we can be all about continuous improvement, right? Learning and keeping on trying. All right, outstanding. Can we give these two ladies a big round of sound? Okay, so here we're going to tell you what we hope we told you and shared with you and did some takeaways. So I'm going to move the screen. Okay, I need a volunteer, a big loud educator voice to read these, and then we'll unpack briefly. I haven't heard from the back of the room, and I'm on my way to my new friends back here in the back. Okay, get ready. Of course, that may be a challenge. You have to let me know, because that screen's pretty small from back here. Can anybody back here read this? Does anybody want to volunteer to read? Will's
Okay.
volunteering. Okay, I'll just pick on somebody. Yes, this group. Again, thank you. You'll be paid later. Let's give Sarah, state your name, where you're from. Let's give her a round of sound for volunteering.
I'm Sarah Petrowski from Illinois State University. I'm the coordinator of student teaching for history and social science ed. So edTPA is levered to bridge pre-service preparation and in-service practice. edTPA can forge strong partnerships across EPPs, P12, state agencies, and educational organizations. Sorry, did I not?
Perfect. Okay, this is a huge paradigm shift. Look at that second bullet, look at the first bullet. It's not that strong partnerships are required for a successful edTPA implementation. That's kind of what we think when we start the implementation path. Oh, we've got to get all these partnerships in place to really support the work of edTPA. My challenge to you and my thinking on this is edTPA, at least in our state, has been a huge lever to forge partnerships. edTPA has done more in our state to really foster partnerships because guess what? Program providers had to talk to one another because they've got this thing called edTPA they've got to roll out. Judy Wilson had 10,000 conversations with Elisa Palmer, as we were implementing, because we learned a lot from Illinois.
Had her on speed dial.
Had on speed dial. So my point is this: you can really use edTPA to forge partnerships and to bridge pre-service preparation and in-service practice through dialogue, through getting to know what is this thing called edTPA. Again, we recognize it's one tool, but you can use that to leverage those conversations and dialogue and improvement. Sarah?
Okay, so bullet point 3, multiple collaborative structures of support can provide avenues for meaningful dialogue about not only the art and skill of teaching, but also about practice and problems of practice and preparation, induction and retention, all while strengthening partnerships. This must span boundaries, and collaboration builds capacity.
Thank you. There's a lot of great work on boundary spanning, and if you're not familiar with that term and haven't really done a lot of reading, I invite you just to go learn more about boundary spanning. One thing in education that we are not so great at is sometimes really reaching beyond our borders, no matter what those borders are. Reaching beyond those boundaries that we set. You may think in your own context, well, I don't have any control over that, or I don't do that. So this is an invitation to think about, okay, how can we span those silos? How can we span those boundaries by reaching out to others? You may say, well, wait now, I've got 10,000 things I've got to do. I don't have the capacity to do that. In education, I think we are all wonderfully busy all the time. Would you agree? There's always things we need to be accomplishing, and it's all meaningful work. I'm convinced that collaboration builds capacity. And if you can reach across, talk to others, think about how you can help one another to accomplishing the work, then it does make things much easier. You may say, well, we don't have a professional learning community set up. We don't have a virtual learning community. Well, my invitation is, why don't you consider thinking about, okay, can I start one? Could I get a group of our faculty and my new buddies I met today with my learning team? Could I just start having conversations with them? It doesn't necessarily have to be regular, but can I connect with them and learn from what they're doing? None of this is new right here, what I'm saying, but are we really intentional about doing it? And it does take intentionality sometimes for things like that to happen. Okay, I'm going to close out this last segment. The middle segment was working together, and I hope that you got that about the partnership piece. And I'm going to, before I do this though, I do want you to do this. I want you to turn to your elbow partner. And I asked you a question earlier. Remember, it was how can we work together in our role playing with our professional learning coordinator faculty. I want you to take 2 minutes and talk with your elbow partner about how can EPPs together work together inside the EPP, external to the EPP, across your EPP program, your unit, what we used to call unit. And also think about how can I work with my P12 partners. So if you will, apply the lens about, for this part of the discussion, how can I work, EPPs and P12 partners work together and bridging those partnerships. Try to come up with 2 things, 2 strategies. Talk with your elbow partner. When I raise my hand, come back.
Talking about what we do as a college and talking to schools about what they need. Yeah. I know I get emails every day. So they started to kind of respond. You got to start the conversation early to make it interesting. We're getting a little closer.
All right, let's come back to 3. Let's come back to 2.
Partnerships already exist. I mean, just moving it into Chicago State? Yeah.
Okay, and 1, thank you. I've asked a volunteer here to share something in your conversation or dialogue, or something you're proud of.
I just drove in, so
and let's bring attention back to the group. Okay.
My name is Karen Kutcher. I'm from Illinois State University. I'm the physical education, teacher education, student teaching coordinator. And Deb and I actually both work in the same field of physical education. And we were talking about at our annual convention about having a roundtable with all of us at the higher ed level, but also bringing in our cooperating teachers to have a conversation with them. How can we facilitate that?
Anybody you think they should consider adding to that bucket? Because you have that close dialogue. Is there any value, I'm just going to ask you, to bring in an HR director in? And this is not about employment. It's not about the candidates getting a job, just as data are not about the data. They're about informing practice and preparation. State educational stakeholders. Fabulous suggestion. We hope that some of the concrete suggestions that you heard from LaToya and Judy helped you answer that today. Okay, I created these 5 charges, and I hope you I want you to get something out of this. If not, hey, it'll kill 3 minutes, right? But here's the deal. Betty Siegel was the president of Kennesaw State University. She was the 3rd president, the first female president in the Southeast, I believe, or maybe in the nation of a college or institution. But she and William Perky did some work together, and I want to read this quote to you in that first bullet. Education is never neutral. Everything and everyone in and around schools adds to, or what? Subtracts from the educative process. Adds to or subtracts from the educative process. We are hoping that you're here, and we know you're here, because you have a commitment to continue to add to the educative process, not just let's check it off, let's pass it, let's get our numbers up, and then we're done. We understand that. And also this part, invitational education also carries a message that human potential is always there, waiting to be discovered and invited forth. So I'm going to invite you to, number one, think about this, it's not really a model, but it's just something that I feel when we're getting to approach some work in our school in Georgia, and I'll just share, we're getting to approach really a deep dive into equity, using the data in edTPA and the rubric level progressions to inform equity. And I'm bringing state partners, I'm bringing EPP partners, our program providers, I'm bringing P12 school districts, HBCUs, public, private, diverse representative to the table to say, hey, let's really get into these data and let's just have some honest conversations and dialogue to make sure that we are indeed meeting the needs, working to meet the needs of all learners in equity in schools. So part of that approach and really beginning an initiative, no matter if it's at the EPP level, no matter if it's an individual level, no matter if it's a regional, national, whatever, is establishing the need. And so really getting into the data and understanding the need. I know Elise Palmer does a great job in getting and looking at the data, making sure that her faculty have those data to look at. Are the data be all end all? No. But we really need to examine. Let me tell you why. Why I picked on equity. In Georgia, we have an outstanding pass rate. Don't mind sharing this, okay? Just as I'm sure your pass rates are also very high. But when you look at the rubric level progressions, then you're seeing, I'm seeing a lot of 2s, a lot of 3s, which is great for edTPA, right? I mean, that's where they should be, somewhere in there. But what a lost opportunity if we don't look past that and say, wait, if you're going to get 4 and 5, if these rubric, no matter what you score, there's great progress that can be made based on what these data reveal and share for professional development. Why let all that great stuff go to waste? That is why I'm a firm believer in having every candidate test edTPA, whether you require them to pass or not, have them submit edTPA and get a score prior to program completion before they leave, get away from you. How many do that in your practice or policy? You have them test before you leave. Okay, if you test before you leave, and some may not have to pass or not. Okay, I see a lot of head nods, that's fabulous. If they don't, and again, I can't tell you what to do in policy or practice, but if you don't at least get those data, then they're gone out the door. And so that's just something to consider. You may say, well, they don't have to pass it take it for program completion, but they have to pass it for certification, and that's fine, I'm not judging that. But what I'm saying is if they don't choose to get certified, then you don't have those rich data to inform your program or to guide if they choose to get certified professional learning. But that's something for you, your policy makers, for you to consider. Okay. Secondly, looking at those data and thinking if we could just move the needle in not just in score, I'm not talking about scores, but take that rich information from those rubric level progressions, work with our school-based partners to say we're going to focus on a few of these equity indicators. Okay, all the rubric level progressions and equity and indicators in edTPA are important, but let's just say we pulled out a specific focus on equity and really focused on that in professional learning and just see where we could, because it's about differentiation, it's about meeting the needs of all learners, and there's many more in there in those different constructs. So I hope that resonates with you. Secondly, conversation. After we determine the need, we need to have meaningful conversations. It's great to know the need, but if we don't pull people to the table to have the conversation, no matter how difficult they are, then it may be lost opportunity. Last is collaboration. I say collaboration builds capacity. We can get things done better together, and thinking about that, we can build those bridges through powerful, inclusive collaboration that builds capacity and removes what? Last line. Competitive barriers. Again, we're all in the same business. Secondly, fourth, a commitment. With collaboration, when you get people to understand the need and you bring them to the table, they can make a commitment. I'm hoping that our group, just as using the equity example, that our group, our partner school districts, our partner EPPs will say, yeah, let's work together to see how we can use these rich data to inform what goes on in schools so that every learner's needs are met. And then we can have a shared commitment toward that. But lastly, that does take courage, because it is very difficult sometimes to have those conversations. Sometimes when you raise your hand, then, it kind of gets, you might feel it gets smacked down, but yet we have to keep moving on and seeing what we can do toward continuous improvement. Okay, so we started with so what, we're going to end with so what. So what is all this stuff that we've talked about? Effective partnerships, building partnerships, bridging pre-service preparation and practice, keeping the focus on the educative value of edTPA and all pre-service data and experiences. Those can be some of the outcomes. Finally, imagine this, and this is a framework to consider. Imagine we work really hard to get great folks in the door, okay, by creating an integrated educator, we're attracting a diverse and representative educator workforce. We get them really in strong preparation programs based on data and experiences, and we continue to work on improvement and areas of strength, celebrate areas of strength, and work on areas for growth. We get them all certified if they need to be and licensed in the state. Depending on your school district's policy. I'm from the state professional standards commission, so I kind of like certification and licensure. And then we put them in great induction programs where all that stuff that came before informs individualized professional learning, which leads to folks staying because they feel supported. I'm convinced that the more effective educators are the ones who stay. And hopefully don't become ROJ. What is ROJ? Retired on the job. We don't want to be that. Okay, so great retention. And by the way, a big fabulous way to retain teachers is to value them and honor the commitments and expertise they bring. Getting those teacher leaders to the table to deliver this individualized professional learning is a huge step. If I know somebody values what I can bring to the table and asks me to help, I'm going to jump through hoops. We as educators jump through hoops anyway, do we not? Because we're very service-oriented as a group. So that can help retain. And then that also with effective teacher leadership helps renew. And that gets them to stay. All of this great work. And that, by the way, elevates the profession. And guess what? People want to come into the profession, right? Because, hey, this is a great place to be. And all of it's built on effective partnerships. It's been our pleasure to be with you today, be here with you today. Thank you as we continue to raise the bar in education. And I hope some of your takeaways today are to think about, consider, reflect, and then go forward and see how you can look ahead and make things happen for your EPP, your P12, your state, and this profession of education. Have a great day.